Conscious Leadership Podcast, the human side of leadership, where consciousness meets practical business leadership. The podcast dives into real challenges managers face, from team motivation to navigating change. Discover actionable insight, proven strategies, and inspiring stories to help you lead with clarity, authenticity, and impact. Whether you are an SME owner, a team leader, or simply passionate about conscious leadership, this podcast will equip you with the tools to build stronger teams, foster trust, and achieve sustainable success. Tune in, lead consciously, and make a difference. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Conscious Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Boris Nedved. In today's episode, I want to tackle one of the most paradoxical truths of the business world. People. People are both the lifeblood of organizations and one of the most scrutinized cost elements. Employees are essential for company strategy, for innovation, customer satisfaction. Yet, in the language of business, they are overwhelmingly represented as costs. Entries in headcount spreadsheets, operating expenses, or liabilities. I think it's time we rethink this story. Humans in the language of business are a cost paradigm. From the moment an employee is onboarded, they are given a personal number. It's a symbolic act that, for me, reduces their presence to a line in corporate accounting. From that point on, their representation in the financial system is almost entirely monetary. And this shapes the way leaders and organizations think about their people. Their salaries and wages are listed under operating expenses, bundled together with rent, office supplies, or electricity. Vacation days are captured as accrued liabilities, as if rest were a financial burden instead of an investment in human sustainability. Social security, health, and pension contributions are written off as compliance costs, rather than recognized as tools for stability and long-term value. In cost accounting, employees are assigned to cost centers. Their hours are tracked, split, and allocated with the same logic applied to machinery or IT systems. In manufacturing, labor is segmented into direct or indirect costs. In services, time tracking tools enforce the distinction between billable and non-billable hours. The result is a framework where human beings are reduced to measurable cost units, reinforcing the mindset that their main role is to be managed as an expense. And if you have ever been part of the infamous headcount spreadsheets, you know what this feels like. A budget cut comes down from above, and suddenly the directive is clear. Reduce headcount by number X. Not a conversation about skills, potential, or the ripple effect on culture. Just numbers on a sheet. The individuality, creativity, and human spark disappear, replaced by a target reduction. These exercises show how deeply the cost paradigm is ingrained. People as costs, to be trimmed when margins tighten. This cost-centric lens blinds leaders to the reality that humans are not just resources to be allocated, but they are the true value creators. It creates a disconnection between what people actually bring to the table, namely energy, adaptability, resilience, and innovation, and how they are formally represented in financial language. And this disconnection is one of the reasons many organizations struggle with engagement, alignment, and sustainable performance today. Human capital is rarely on the asset side. Despite the popular phrase human capital, accounting standards like IFRS and US GAAP don't allow employees to be listed as assets. Brands, IP, even customer relationships can be capitalized, but not people. Why? Because unlike machinery or buildings, people can't be owned, depreciated, or amortized. They come with autonomy, choices, and the freedom to walk away. qualities that make them powerful contributors, but problematic for balance sheets that are built on control and ownership. Accounting frameworks were designed to measure tangible and intangible assets that stay within corporate control, not living beings with agency. This leads to several distortions. For example, when a company acquires another firm, it can list goodwill as an intangible asset, capturing things like reputation, customer base, intellectual property. But the people, whose leadership, culture and expertise often make or break the success of that merger, they are not listed. Ironically, investors pay premiums for businesses precisely because of their talent and their culture. Yet those elements vanish into the abstract bucket of goodwill. The result is an invisibility that creates a dangerous paradox. People, the true drivers of value, are left off the balance sheet. The frameworks honor patterns and logos, but not creativity, trust and adaptability, or the collective intelligence of teams. This absence fuels a mentality where leaders overlook or undervalue the human contribution, focusing instead of what's reportable. It subtly trains organizations to privilege hard numbers over human dynamics, even though it's the people who ultimately determine whether strategies succeed or fail. Why are humans reduced to costs? The bias goes back to the Industrial Revolution, when accounting was built around capital assets and physical production. Human potential, being this subjective and unpredictable thing, didn't fit neatly into the ledgers. So the focus shifted to things that could be quantified and owned: machines, buildings, inventory. People were categorized as labor inputs, necessary but not assets in the traditional sense. This mindset hardened over time. By the 1980s and 90s, the shareholder value era cemented the idea that labor was primarily a cost to be minimized. Quarterly earnings and cost cutting became the dominant measures of success. Labor was outsourced, automated, or squeezed for efficiency. Leaders were rewarded for reducing headcounts and streamlining costs, even if that came at the expense of long-term resilience or innovation. This framework might have made sense for factories and mechanized production, but it's deeply flawed in today's knowledge-driven economy. Innovation, adaptability, and culture are now the differentiators. Yet these are precisely the qualities traditional accounting ignores. The result is that organizations systematically undervalue the very qualities that determine success in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. Leadership quality, cultural alignment, adaptability, creativity. What gets measured gets managed. And since human factors aren't adequately measured, they are often neglected, to the detriment of sustainable performance. The turning point happens when companies realize the value of people. Sadly, many organizations only recognize the value of their people in crisis, during mass resignations, skill shortages, or cultural breakdowns. When KPIs tank, suddenly leaders look beyond the cost data. But it doesn't have to be this way. Luckily, there is a growing recognition that valuing people is not just a moral stance, but a competitive advantage. Companies that adapt earlier are discovering that they can reduce turnover, increase innovation, and build trust-based cultures that are far, far, far more resilient. Some are embedding people-centric indicators into their core business strategy. For example, measuring psychological safety on teams alongside traditional performance metrics, or tracking how many employees are engaged in development opportunities rather than just how many hours they logged. Others are learning to view people well-being not as a perk, but as an infrastructure, just as essential as IT systems or capital investment. Forward-looking companies are beginning to shift. Human capital disclosures mandated by the SEC. Integrated reporting frameworks that include human capital alongside financials. And they use new tools like Human Design, BG5 and OC16 that help leaders understand the personal energy and the team alignment. Take Google in 2021. They had an internal unrest and high-profile departures. The financials stayed strong, however, but employee trust plummeted. In response, Google launched listening sessions, reset D&I goals, adjusted leadership approaches, and the payoff was engagement and trust rebounded. Look at Microsoft. When Satya Nadella became CEO in 2014, he shifted the culture from know it all to learn it all. Through empathy, growth mindset, and transparent feedback systems, Microsoft reignited innovation and saw employee satisfaction rise, alongside their shareholder value. What a surprise, huh? Even the banking sector offers a lesson. After the 2008 financial crisis, many institutions were forced to rebuild public trust and internal morale. Some banks invested heavily in leadership development, values-based training, culture shift toward responsibility and transparency. Those that prioritized people regained customer trust faster and stabilized their organizations more effectively than peers that relied only on restructuring and cost-cutting. Manufacturing companies, too, are discovering the link. Firms that once focused solely on efficiency metrics have started tracking safety culture, employee input in process improvements, and community relationships. These investments not only reduced accidents and turnover, but also enhanced brand reputation and long-term profitability. These stories across industries prove that valuing isn't charity, it's good business. And it consistently shows up in innovation, resilience, and long-term success. So for me, the way forward is measuring what matters. And we are at a turning point. Companies that continue treating employee at cost, risk, disengagement, and decline. Those who shift to valuing people as catalysts are thriving. The path forward means balancing financial discipline with human intelligence. This requires moving beyond headcount reports and cost ratios towards a metrics that illuminates the real driver of value. Companies can start by conducting internal talent and strength audits that map not just what roles people fill, but what intrinsic capabilities they bring. Tracking the sentiment and engagement continuously through surveys, pulse checks, and energetic readings of the team morale. You can align people strategies with long-term value creation instead of quarterly cost savings. For example, linking leadership development to innovation goals or connecting employee well-being initiatives directly to customer satisfaction outcomes. Incorporating qualitative measures, trust, collaboration, quality, psychological safety into management dashboards alongside financial KPIs. Yes, and using modern tools like Human Design, BG5 and OC16 to reveal the energetic blueprint of individuals and teams, ensuring the alignment between role and resonance. Ultimately, the organizations that thrive will be those that learn to measure what truly matters. The health of their human systems, the vibrancy of their cultures, and the coherence of their leadership. Because the heartbeat of a business isn't found in a spreadsheet. It beats in the people who dream, who execute, who collaborate, and who lead with purpose. Quantum leadership KPIs are the tools to measure resonance and alignment. Traditional metrics miss what really drives modern performance. Quantum leadership introduces new KPIs that translate energetic alignment, human resonance, and process coherence into tangible insights for business performance. Here's my 10 examples that I use for giving you new ideas and how leaders can start working. A resonance index. It measures how aligned individuals feel with their role, team, and mission. A decision latency reduction captures the time from insight to aligned action. Energetic leakage score tracks the wasted time, attention, or emotional energy due to misaligned activities. Role alignment accuracy calculates the percentage of team members working in resonance with their energetic BG5 blueprint. Communication friction index measures the degrees of miscommunication, rework, or emotional resistance. Psychological safety quotient gauges levels of trust and openness through microsurveys. The coherence pulse tracks momentary team alignment to shared goals. Clarity to action ratio measures how effectively strategic clarity translates into execution. Transformation conversation rate identifies the percentage of conversations leading to visible shifts in behavior, emotion, or systems. And finally, the team frequency variability observes the fluctuation in team energetic states over time, correlating it with dips, with systemic mismatches, or leadership tone shifts. These KPIs can redefine what success looks like. They allow leaders like you that's listening to the podcast, to quantify resonance, trust, and alignment, the human elements that traditional accounting misses, but really that determine whether organizations thrive or falter. I could go on and on with quantum leadership KPIs or quantum process KPIs. Yet I don't want to waste your time by KPIs that are meaningless unless you really want to change. So here's my call to action to all the leaders or the to-be leaders out there. As leaders, let's stop reducing humans to costs. Let's recognize them as the value creators they are. The future of leadership is about putting people back at the center, where they've always belonged. I believe that while accounting standards like IFRS or US GAAP are unlikely to change anytime soon, companies that treat their people as individuals rather than expenses, they will always have an edge over their competitors. They are the ones who will attract the best talent, nurture and grow that talent, and retain it over the long term. They are also the organizations that project a stronger image to the outside world, resonating with customers, clients, and partners who want to connect with authentic and human-centered brands. Thank you for tuning in to the Conscious Leadership Podcast. Visit my website humaninthecenter.com to learn more, or even to schedule your free leadership alignment session where we can discuss elements like that. Until the next time, stay intentional, stay conscious, and keep leading with purpose from the inside out. Thank you for listening to the Conscious Leadership Podcast. Look forward to the next episode to come, and stay intentional, stay conscious, and keep leading with purpose. Until the next time, bye.